Give a warm welcome to Vicki Juditz.
Shortly after the LA uprising, I decided it was time for me to purchase a gun. I thought about it before, after I was mugged, but I didn't grow up with guns. I never held a gun. I put the idea aside. But then, after the unrest, living just a few blocks from Hollywood Boulevard, I felt vulnerable. I decided I would talk this over with a girlfriend of mine who happened to be a psychotherapist, thinking that she would have some pithy observations about vulnerability to share with me from the psychiatric community. She said, I have a gun. I wouldn't be afraid to use it. So I opened the Yellow Pages. That's what we did back then. I opened the Yellow Pages to G for Guns. And I found Dave's Gun World and Target Range in Van Nuys. I called him up. I said, hey, I'm trying to, do you have lessons? Yes, we do, said a very friendly sounding man. I said, I would be an absolute beginner. I've never even held a gun. No problem. You'd want Dave. He's the owner. How's Thursday, 4 o'clock? I might have been calling up to get a haircut. Okay. So on Thursday, I drove over to Dave's Gun World and Target Range. It was in Van Nuys near the airport in a very nice residential street, not at all seedy. It was an out-of-the-way street, not a street you'd go to unless you had a reason, but there was a big sign on the building. It said Gun World. I poked my head in there, and there were all sorts of very large weapons for sale, rifles and such. And the man behind the counter told me I wanted the other building, the Target Range building across the street, for my lesson. I did recognize his voice. It was that of the friendly man. In the Target Range building, the first thing I saw when I walked in was a large glass display case, like a jewelry case. But instead of jewelry, it was filled with handguns. On the left were the revolvers, clunky, old-fashioned with fat, round barrels. And they all had names. Sleuth, Rin Tin Tin, Stubby. On the right were the semi-automatic, trim, streamlined, fit in your purse size. One was called Lil Abner. Above the display case, there was a large plate glass window through which you could see the actual Target Range, maybe 6, 7, 8 stalls facing a large room. It was so quiet. Nobody around. Just me and all those guns. Finally, a door opened. A man came into the room. He was short and stocky, had close-cropped blonde hair, pencil-thin mustache, paunch. He wasn't ugly, but he wasn't really attractive. He was forgettable. He wore black boots, black jeans, a short-sleeved black sports shirt with the word Second Chance emblazoned on the shirt pocket in hot pink. He said, Hi, I'm Dave. Hi, I'm here for my lesson. I hope I'm dressed okay. I looked down at my jumper and low heels. You look fine. Come into my office. I followed Dave back through the door he'd come out of into a tiny office. Dave locked the door behind us. He sat down at his desk. I sat down across from him. He opened the desk drawer and he took out 2 handguns, a revolver and a semi-automatic, and he placed them on the desk. He said, I come from a family of law enforcement, all right? And the truth is, the city of Los Angeles would be a much safer place if every law-abiding citizen carried a gun. Criminals wouldn't take the chance, all right? Now, we'll begin with the 5 rules of safety. And Dave began to explain to me the 5 rules of safety and the 6 ways of this and the 7 ways of that. He showed me the bullets. He loaded the guns. Everything with Dave was numbered and in order. He talked for an hour and a half. He was mind-numbingly dull. It was a lot like traffic school, except, of course, I was locked in a room alone with a man holding 2 loaded guns. I found myself staring at his hands on the guns while he talked. Just as I was beginning to wonder if I'd even get to hold a gun at my lesson, Dave began telling me a story. You hear him breaking into your home, all right? You have a plan. You go directly to the master bedroom, lock the door behind you, dial 911. Retrieve your gun from the bedside table. Position yourself behind the bed, facing the door. All right? You hear him in the hallway, he knows you're in there. You call out, I've called the police, I have a gun. He breaks down the door. You can see him, he can't see you yet. His eyes haven't yet adjusted to the darkness. Check to see if he is armed. If he is armed, you aim and fire. That's the law. If he's not armed, you're in trouble. But if he is armed, you aim and fire. Aim directly for the head and chest areas. Do not shoot to maim, shoot to stop. You did everything you could to avoid a confrontation. You did not pursue him. Your gun was your last resort. Dave picked up the loaded revolver and he rested the barrel against his cheek and he said, your gun is your best friend. It is always there for you. Now, we will be using the revolver today. That's better for the beginner. The semi-automatic's a bit more complex, more likely to jam. And then he showed me exactly how to unload and reload the revolver. And then he showed me the stance. It was a lot like golf. You had your feet planted shoulder width apart, knees comfortably bent. He showed me how to grip the gun and how to aim by lining up the sights. And then it was time finally to go to the actual target range. So we put on goggles and headphones to muffle sound, and he led me through another door to a small, private target range. Only 2 stalls facing a long, narrow room. There was a metal track in the ceiling like they have at the dry cleaners, and Dave clipped a target to this track. It was a paper cutout of a man's head and chest. It occurred to me Dave had never even asked why I was there. It was assumed from the moment I entered this place I was there for one reason, to purchase a handgun for the purpose of killing human beings. Dave sent the target out 25 feet. He had brought along that loaded revolver. He unloaded it. He put the bullets in his pocket. He assumed the stance. He gripped the gun. He practice fired the empty revolver at the paper target. And then he put the gun down on the ledge of the stall and he said, "Pick it up." I picked up the gun. It was so cold, much heavier than it looked. "Load it." He handed me the bullets, and I loaded the gun as he had shown me. Okay. I assumed the stance. I gripped the gun. I line up the sights. And very slowly, I pulled the trigger. A small round hole appeared in the chest area of the paper target. It was so easy. There was nothing to it. I mean, I thought that it would be hard to pull the trigger, that the force of the gun firing might throw me back a bit, but no. I had absolutely no sense of the awful power of this thing. And I said to Dave, this is a real gun, right? I mean, these are real bullets. Yeah, fire the rest of the rounds. I assumed the stance. I gripped the gun, I lined up the sights, and I thought, I could turn and shoot Dave. He would never see it coming, somebody like me. Then I had the most awful, it was almost irresistible. I had this almost irresistible urge to turn and shoot Dave, just to see what would happen. Just to see if that gun really worked. I thought, well, that is what children must feel, isn't it? A certain curiosity, a certain disbelief anybody would get hurt. I fired off the rest of the rounds, and I stared at the empty gun in my hand. To me now it looked terrifying, because it looked harmless. It looked like a toy. Didn't require strength, courage, or even much skill. Dave offered me 6 more bullets, but I shook my head. I put the gun down on the ledge of the stall. The lesson was over.
Keep it going. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.